Hi, my name is Alexander Eberhage, and I'm the director of Defunction. It's a short film about a scientist couple who's experimenting with time travel, but they encounter unexpected results.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And your film is about time travel. And I'm looking at your director's statement, and it says that you've always had a problem with time travel in as a concept in films, and you wanted to try to do something new and different to make it more understanding for yourself. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I grew up watching like Back to the Future and the Terminator, and I love those films, and they inspired me to make this one. But I think in a lot of those time travel interpretations, they kind of play with the idea that you can go to the future to visit your future self, and that he's just there, right? He's or he or she is there in the future, and they're kind of they're available, like you're able to coexist in the same point in time, right? So your present self and your future self could be in the same point in time together. And I think that did make sense to me in particular because I always thought that if you leave if you're like your present self, if you leave the present to go visit your future self, how could the future self be there? Because the present self, the absence of the present self kind of kills off the future self, right? So like in order for the future self to exist, there needs to be some lineage, some history. And once you erase that history and the past self is there, how would that exist? I tried to think about it in terms of kind of the one timeline.
So, have you thought about this concept for a while?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been loving the time travel films and those types of stories ever since I was a kid. But I think you know, I've been writing down kind of ideas for time travel films for a long time, and I think it was just waiting for the right time to where I could kind of put these ideas together. Right, the first half of the idea was right what I was just saying about kind of wanting to create a new version of time travel. And then the second half of the idea was, what if a time traveler had retrograde amnesia, right? Which is the inability to remember your past. So if you're stuck in the future and you can't remember where you're from, how do you get back? And that was a really, I'd never seen that done on film before. And, I kind of wanted to try that too. So yeah.
So where was this shot? I think one of the sets looked like it might have been like a racquetball court or something similar to that effect.
Yeah, yeah. So the opening is shot right in a racquetball court. I mean I shot the whole film. It was for a class assignment. I'm a film student at DePaul University in Chicago, and we were asked to make a film in about a month, and write it and put it together. Yeah, I used DePaul and that entire campus to my advantage, and there's a hospital sequence, and that entire scene was shot in a dorm room, and we just like redecked it, to look kind of hospitally, if that's a word. But yeah.
So the whole film was shot on campus then? They have a racquetball court and you just use the dorm rooms and the parks and surrounding areas?
Yeah, yeah, anything that kind of looked near future, and had that I was really trying to go with this kind of white color palette of just kind of very bland and kind of near future look. So anything that had that kind of white texture, or and I dressed my actors in that too, right, to kind of match that. So yeah, I tried to just find interesting, little locations to use. Yeah.
So let's talk about your actors then, since you mentioned them. Are they students on campus as well?
The actress who plays the wife in this, her name is Louette Kahn, and she's done acting before in high school, but she's studying in the theater program at DePaul to be a makeup artist, right? And without
Oh,
giving too much away, that does play. She was able to bring her talents to this, right? But so she's studying to do that, and then on top of that, the guy who plays the husband, Davis Gates, I actually met him through just our love of comedy. So I had never seen him do dramatic work, and he's studying to be a creative producer in film. So this was I didn't expect this from him, and I was asking him one day, I'm working on this film. Do you know anybody who could do it, this dramatic role? And he said yes. And so yeah, so this was I'd never seen him done anything like this before. He's, great at improv and comedy. So, yeah, they both did amazing jobs of selling that relationship.
I'm familiar with your previous work since you are a legacy filmmaker and you've shown at our festival twice. You have utilized animation more in your previous projects, and this seems to be more like a practical location type thing. Is that something you're trying to move into more for narrative?
Yeah, my last project, Galactorator, it revolved a lot around the idea of, the effects and the look of it. And it was, it relied heavily on that to sell that look. But I think I'm trying to just learn to just kind of make films that you can do with, I guess, tighter budgets and tighter things, just to I mean, the Galactorator film took me a year to make, and this film, I was able to make in a month. And so I'm trying to, I was up against an assignment deadline for class for this film, but I think I was just trying to experiment to see what I could do in, a tighter time frame, right? But I do, if given the budget, I would love to make a big spectacle, with CGI and all of that. But right now I'm just trying to, just see what I can do without relying on that, right? And just figuring out how to use the camera and how to use the motion of the camera to maybe get interesting angles and to be less reliant on the visual aesthetic, and yeah,
So you
yeah.
mentioned this was a so you mentioned this was a class project. There was a deadline. You had to finish it by a certain date.
Yeah, so we had the first week of class, we had a week to write the script, and that was, pretty fast. But I felt really good about the script. But then after that, we had a couple weeks to just talk about casting and production design and work on all that. And so the goal of the class, right, it was film 101, and the goal is to teach us, each aspect of filmmaking and camera work. That was 1 week, right? It was a 10-week journey to make the film. And so I did, it's basically the same, but I think, from the end of the class of what I submitted to now, but I think what I did is I went in and maybe just tweaked a couple things like audio, I wasn't as happy with the mix when I submitted it. I thought, oh, I could tweak him here, maybe I could hear them better. So I kind of went in and kind of, re-engineered that audio to just sound a little better. And I might have just changed a couple of shots here and there just to make it more fluid. But yeah, it was pretty much the same. But yeah, I was given more time to kind of correct it. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, you're a film lover. I see that with the props in your room and the posters. Being a film lover, how was it going into a Film 101 class and maybe learning about other films you may not have known about, or learning about the craft itself? Because you probably didn't get that in high school, right?
Yeah, yeah. So with Film 101, we were watching, new film every week, and a lot of the films were maybe foreign films or, older films that we haven't seen, right? And I think it's interesting because you kind of learn that everybody has a different approach. Every filmmaker, we watch 10 films throughout the course of that class, and if it's a foreign film, you kind of learn, wow, there's a different outlook on life that they're presenting in that film, and they're interpreting the world in a different way. So I think that was really eye-opening to see that, stuff you wouldn't normally see on your own time, Um, I have, I'm kind of with my father and, other generations who have seen films of the past. I'm able to see that, but still my generation might not know about certain films, right? We might only, uh, we grew up on Marvel and things like that, right? Things that, um, aren't really film, but we were kind of brainwashed to think it was, right? So now we're kind of able to see films that we would have never seen before. So yeah, it was really interesting just to see, uh, just to kind of learn about different ways of communicating a story, right? And that there's different styles and different ways you could do it. And so that was really fascinating to see. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Thank you again for joining us this time, and we enjoyed your film, and hope to see you in September.
Thank you. I'll be there. I'm gonna make
Okay,
it.
great.